so much to talk about, Tarun. I'd love to start off a little bit, maybe with your first 5 years on Wall Street, because when I look at Gauntlet, it seems like a strange combination of everything you learned at Cornell and maybe some of the things you picked up at D.E. Shaw, and then all the other things combined. So maybe we start there. What do you remember from those days on Wall Street, and was D.E. Shaw an important part of your career?
Yeah, for sure. I think maybe the way I will color this is I'll give a history of how I got into crypto, and then along the way, like that, I'll give a little bit of kind of the finance type of stuff that was
sounds good.
Kind of there. So I was working at D.E. Shaw Research, where we are actually building ASICs and custom hardware for a bunch of different reasons, not for mining, but for totally different use case. And basically what happened in 2011 is we had this $25 million chip order. And basically we gave $25 million to the supplier, and then they ghosted us for 6 months. And then of course they came back 6 months later and were like, hey, we'll give you a 10% discount. And of course, maybe slightly more politely than this, we said, fuck you. Like, why did you have to tell us what happened? Like where is this, where did our money go? And, they were kind of reticent to tell us what really happened. But after, twisting their arm a bunch, they told us it was like someone doing cryptocurrency mining. And in 2011, that was just like unheard of, like that someone would be going to the process of building hardware to do mining. So that had me starting to mine a bit, which I took all the coins I earned then and sold them at the bottom in 2013. But it definitely got me into the space a lot. And I think what happened in sort of like 2015 and 2016, the academic research on cryptocurrencies got a lot better. So I think when I was at D.E. Shaw, and also when I was in high frequency trading, most people I worked with were people with sort of like traditional distributed systems backgrounds. And one thing that's interesting about, Bitcoin, or the early days of Bitcoin, is that basically no one in distributed systems believed it was really working until it existed for 4 or 5 years. And one of the reasons for that is that there's a lot of incorrect math in the original white paper, and it doesn't really kind of prove the claims that are made. But then also B, there's just a lot of existing sort of theory for how distributed systems work, how distributed system that's in a data center run by Google or Apple, how all the computers there talk to each other. A lot of those properties only hold in sort of a probabilistic way for cryptocurrencies. And until basically 2015, no one actually gave a very good description of why or how that occurred. So I think once that started getting a lot better, the academic there started to be hey, there's actually a way of wrapping your head around these things. I started reading a lot of papers on new protocols, especially proof of stake protocols. And one thing I thought that was interesting was that a lot of the stuff was written by cryptographers, and they would focus on, hey, does this cryptographic assumption break? Does some mathematical property not hold? Whereas, when you're coming from finance, you think of things in terms of what is the likelihood of this event happening? Or what's the likelihood of users, traders, market makers, whatever, changing their behavior, and then suddenly the system breaks because, there's no one there, or someone's doing something malicious. And I kind of noticed that these papers, the security models they used were really focused on these kind of cryptographic assumptions and not user behavior assumptions.
Right.
And that led me down the rabbit hole of trying to take a finance lens to these different protocols and sort of try to understand if there are financial attacks that would basically cause all the users to sort of leave in some sense.